Hi guys,
welcome to another episode of
Passion Project Japan.
I'm Theo,
And I'm Gia.
and in today's episode, we'll be speaking with Paul Roberts, a Tokyo-based IT recruiter who has helped thousands of IT professionals find their next career step, from fresh grads to mid-career switchers. He's worked with some of the biggest names in tech, hiring talent from product managers to software engineers.
In this episode, we asked Paul for his insights into the tech job market in Japan in 2024 and the trends that he's observed for 2025 and beyond. We then have a discussion with him on the opportunities that we have for startups in Japan and some of the real problems that businesses are facing that you can solve.
This is part 1 of our interview with Paul, and we'll be uploading another episode next week where it's kind of like a live coaching session where he gives us feedback on some CVs that we generated. So if you are a job seeker, you definitely don't want to miss today's episode as well as next week's episode. So we hope you enjoy it. Here's the conversation.
Actually, adding on to that, we also read some of your latest newsletter. And
well, thank you. Good to have a reader.
Number 37.
That's it, number 37. Yeah.
Right. So in that writing, number 37, you kind of gave us a very overview of like tech job market in Japan. So can you also explain some of that, of your insights?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for reading. So it's good to know someone's reading. But no, my newsletter kind of started out from what kind of stuff can I do? And it's very hard to keep. I know thousands of people. I've met thousands of people. It's very hard to have a personal relationship with that many people. And so a newsletter is a good way to kind of keep in touch at some level.
Yeah.
And then, it can generate conversations. So I always try and give a kind of a market overview or as I see it. So at the moment, maybe if we look at like 2024, 2025, kind of as we're into the new year, maybe it's good timing. So I think 2024 was kind of a quite steady job market. Companies across the board were hiring. Now, my niche is the English speaking in the roles that are kind of so bilingual English Japanese or English speaking. I think it was quite steady hiring. Not as much as perhaps 2021, 2022. We had this kind of tech boom hiring bubble during COVID that then kind of coming towards the end of 2022, you start seeing all the big tech layoffs in the US. Amazon, Facebook, Google, all these kind of stopped hiring. Then the layoffs. Japan sort of avoided, I think, most of the layoffs, but things kind of quietened down. But there was kind of slow and stable hiring. So you see a lot of companies hiring a few people into engineering, product design, kind of here and there, rather than sort of one company just hiring thousands of people. It's kind of across the board. A lot of the hiring has been in the last few years kind of focused on software engineering, so people building things here. And a lot of companies have kind of taken away Japanese language requirements from sort of the software engineering teams. So whether they're using product managers or other people to kind of interface with what's usually a Japanese business to understand. Whereas if I go back 10 years, it was, we need a developer, they need to talk to the business, we need someone bilingual. Now that's been a big shift. Rakuten, I think, kind of pioneered this. 2010, they moved to English and as a company language, and people just thought they were nuts. I think the average TOEIC was something like 400, if I remember reading something like that. And it was a big struggle. It took them a few years, but it opened up. I'm not sure if the idea was it would let them go global, but it let them kind of bring global here as well. Fast retailing, Uniqlo, and they had sort of similar English-speaking type of environment. And so you've got companies kind of copying or getting a kind of hybrid environment where, maybe conversational level Japanese is enough. Maybe the Japanese engineers have conversational English and kind of people can meet in the middle. So I think in the English-speaking, it's probably software engineering has been probably the key focus. This was the year people started asking me for AI people. I need someone with 5 years of this stuff that got invented last week.
5 years of ChatGPT experience.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So, so it's very interesting. I think we see Japanese companies building solutions, whether it's generative AI or other. It's not all just LLMs, right? There's a lot of other things. We're building solutions to go out to Japanese companies and the Japanese economy and try and boost productivity with automation or just making life easier. Productivity is if you look at productivity figures in Japan compared to other places, it's really stuck. My wife works for a Japanese company. I won't name them in case they're watching, but but they
Censor it.
Beep it out. But the area she's in is sort of importing chemicals for production, and then they resell in Japan. So a lot of English speakers. But I look at the tools they've been. It's not great at moving to better technologies, and there's technical issues with that. Do they have the people to actually implement things, the skill sets? And then there's sort of the cultural things of she's involved in, for example, invoicing. And so she's got customers that demand a paper invoice. So they'll upload an invoice to the invoice system. She'll send an email with the PDF. And then if the paper one doesn't turn up, like, we haven't had the real one. It's like, well, you've got the real one. It's a PDF. It came out of a computer. The Hanko is printed. We're not sitting here like this Hankoing. And they're like, no, the CFO wants a real one. We need to. And so, they've still got these kind of limitations. So some of that's, going to be removed by generational shifts, but there's these sort of barriers to improving productivity. I think that the job market, obviously over COVID, were you guys here during COVID?
Yes,
So
when it started.
Yeah, we came in 2021.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
So okay.
literally,
Yeah. So we had the kind of the closed borders
Yeah.
during that time. So companies, that obviously had a big effect on recruitment. You either had to find people locally who were already here, or you sort of had remote workers. You hired people remotely. Maybe that would continue remotely indefinitely, or maybe you'd relocate them after, when sort of the borders reopened in 2022. So that kind of had a kind of change in opening up, I think, a lot of companies' ideas to hiring people from overseas. We've got a very weak yen right now. It doesn't look, it's not great if you're going to Singapore, go back to see your family, right? But great if they're coming to visit you. They can take you out. But the tourism boom, so many people have been here. I get contacted by so many people overseas. Like, I've spent a month in Osaka. I had a fantastic time. I want to come and live in Japan. That's kind of my next step. So competition for those roles that are open to people from overseas, it's very, very competitive. You can expect hundreds of applications, where a few years ago in Japan was perhaps less popular. It wouldn't have been the kind of the same volume of people applying for positions.
And this is like big companies, or is it also smaller?
I think it's I'm finding small companies that are they're open. There was this kind of idea a lot of companies had that sponsoring visas was this big job, and I don't know if that's the legal industrial complex. The lawyers kind of saying, you got to get a lawyer, it's really big deal. There's a bunch of paperwork. A lot of companies I've worked at, they didn't even use lawyers. They just filled in the forms themselves and went to immigration and handed it in. I think my first visa, the company did the paperwork and I went to immigration and handed it in.
Yourself at Shinagawa?
No, it was in Otomachi in those days.
Otomachi.
Before they moved out to Shinagawa. It was kind of like redeveloped, like prime real estate in Otomachi. But they're like, here's the packet, going down to immigration, apply for your visa. And I'm not sure. I just thought that was normal. Now it's, you got to have a lawyer doing it. So I think some of the mystique around sponsoring people's visas has disappeared. There's better information online, and companies are realizing, actually, why don't we consider this? Of course, Japan, there's still a lot of risk aversion, so they're being quite careful about who, they want to hire. There's smaller companies bringing people over as maybe their first foreign hire. These been, I think, some of the key things I think I've seen over kind of the course of 2024, and a lot of that's just going to roll into this year, I think.
Coming back to the software engineer position in Japan, so you were saying that there are probably more jobs available for senior.
Probably mid to senior.
Mid to senior.
Yeah.
How much would you say they can earn, or what is the average salary for them here in Japan? And how about like people who are fresh grads, like as a junior software engineer, how much can they earn in Japan?
Yeah, really good question. I think for fresh grads, it really just, most salary in Japan sort of depends on who you work for and what the kind of company, and the industry. Is it a domestic Japanese company or gaishike company? Foreign companies tending to pay better. Bilingual Japanese people often will move to the gaishikei foreign companies because it's a different work culture, and the salary, you might get paid double what you were being paid in a Japanese company to do the same work. So or more, way more. So I think I've seen, say like university graduates or bootcamp grads or other people looking for first software engineering roles. I would say anything from sort of the average new grad salary of 3 million up to perhaps 5 million, 5.5, sort of depending on their background, the skills, the type of company they're getting into. For salary, do you know opensalary.jp?
No, what is OpenSalary?
It's I guess like a crowdsourced tech salary open database, online database,
wow, okay.
Founded by a guy called Drew Terry, who, when he was kind of job hunting, couldn't find just good information on salaries here. It's not posted in job descriptions, things like that. So he sort of built this platform. And so software engineering, product management, engineering managers, data science, designers, all kinds of people. And basically people will submit their sort of salary information anonymously. And then you've got the kind of database you can have a look at. It's very interesting when you look at the sort of distribution of salaries. So at the lower end, you've got sort of the more domestic Japanese companies, perhaps people on contract roles, because they tend to, even though contracts are supposed to be paid the same as people in a full-time role, not always the case. At one end, and then over at the other end, you've got sort of the big, US big tech and the adjacent companies here that are kind of working in the same pool of talent as well. So it's pretty interesting. But from there, you probably look at someone in a sort of modern tech environment, 0 to 1 year salary is probably median. Salary is probably around 5.5 million. But I think when I talk to people saying, I just got my first job, it's like, well, what you're getting is 3 point something, 4 point something is pretty typical. Now, if you look at the average wage in Japan is something like 4.6 million yen, I think, from the government statistics. So, for a lot of people, maybe I talk to bootcamp grads who are going from English teaching to an IT job, the salary is really the same. They've kind of swapped out one for the other, but the potential, the earning potential is way greater. As they gain skill and experience, every year you're adding on, to your earning potential, whereas you could teach for 20 years and still get this 300,000 yen a month kind of salary that has been stuck around since the 90s as well. So when I talk to people looking at the first role, I think salary is very important. It pays for your life, but I think also it's one criteria. Look at what you're going to learn, who you're going to work with, the industry, and kind of take the balance from all of that. I've weirdly changed jobs for less money in the past, but because I had a better kind of future potential. Not that I'm telling people change jobs for less money. It is the primary chance of getting a pay rise in any country is changing jobs. But I think it's one criteria. I think you also got to look at, especially for a first role. Most people are not going to take their first job and be there 20 years. They're going to be there maybe a year and a half. If it's a great fit, if they're being paid well, there's opportunity, they'll stay with the company, develop a career. But for other people, they go, okay, now I want to make that jump, different environment, different people, learn new things, and that salary bump will probably come with that kind of move into a different company too.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the episode so far, please remember to subscribe to our channel, Passion Project Japan.
We release our episodes once every 2 weeks, so you don't want to miss that out.
All these gold nuggets of wisdom straight to your YouTube feed every 2 weeks. So remember to subscribe. You as a Tokyo IT tech recruiter, you have your finger on the pulse for the IT scene. And
somewhat, I guess. Yeah.
And so we are very curious to hear your insights into the developments in the space and also some ideas that you think opportunities that people like software engineers or whatnot can start.
So again, I'm not a VC, I'm not sort of a founder, but I'm very interested in the space. I think this is what's going to get Japan out of the last decades and the stagnation. And I am talking to founders and people who want to be here and are here and stuff like that. So I kind of give my 2 cents worth. So I think 2024 was the year I really felt a buzz around startups in Japan. Now, that's kind of a culmination of things that have been going on for several years. I think COVID brought forward a lot of change in Japan, as it probably did elsewhere. Remote work, you didn't have that. Japanese companies, you didn't work from home ever. But COVID within a week, I get my wife working for a fairly domestic company at the office every day, and then COVID hits, and the courier delivered PCs and stuff, and suddenly it was in a home office set up, and she didn't go back to the office for a year and a half, except to deal with faxes and mail invoices. They had to be done.
We love that.
At the office in person, so half a day a month doing old-fashioned stuff. But I think there's a buzz. I think last year, we had big events like Sushi Tech. We had smaller events, still very important events. I think like Takeoff Tokyo, and lots of events founded, sort of run by VCs, accelerators, lots of stuff like that. So there were things that had like hundreds of people at, to things that had thousands of people at, to things that had just very small numbers of people. I think for me as well, probably the one thing I take most positive over the last couple of years is that there's a generational shift, I think, in attitudes to work in Japan. I talk to younger Japanese people. They're not expecting a job for life that their grandparents or perhaps parents had. And they're kind of seeing, whether it's Silicon Valley or some of the successful recent entrepreneurs in Japan, or recent startup companies and businesses, and thinking this is a valid, path for them. I think if you go back, dropping out of the corporate world to set up your own company was sort of kind of seen as a weird thing that the misfits did, rather than you graduate from Todai and then you set up a startup. But that's what I see now, and Todai graduate, and then hasn't gone to work anywhere else. They've set up their own company.
Okay, straight
out of university. So again, that's not going to be everyone doing that, but that this kind of a shift in attitude. It was all about job security, job stability, and risk. And for I think quite a few of generational shift, there are always people who don't care about those things, and they were outliers I think before. But I think now more younger Japanese people see kind of a startup life, an environment where maybe they don't have to stay forever and work their way up to have influence and autonomy. They can have freedom. I think it's become a very attractive scene for Japanese women. Again, sort of, the gender stereotypes in larger companies or more traditional environments. And obviously for, a lot of people coming from overseas, kind of fitting into the startup environments as well. So I think it's pretty interesting, and, hopefully we have an exciting 2025 and lots of kind of cool things get done, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Speaking of interesting things, do you have ideas of some of the biggest opportunities for software or for business that people can start in Japan?
I do, but if I told you, I'd have to kill you. So, now, it's a really interesting question. Not really, but I think I probably approach this in if someone's sort of thinking, what can I do? Setting something new up in Japan has its own challenges because you're in Japan doing it, but innovation is doing something sort of different or so I guess or generating ideas may be the same kind of globally. So I think when I talk to people that have set up their own businesses or done side businesses, so first thing is probably, what are your goals? Are you trying to set up a company that you want to grow to be a unicorn? Are you trying to set up a company with your friends and it's going to be 5 of you, just, and that's it? The agency I work with are a 3-person company, and that's the size we're happy with, and we don't want to be any more than that. So that was kind of set up from sort of early days. Is it a side business? Is it a side business you want to do because you want to do something completely different from what your day job is, or you want to do something complementary and it's not sort of competing with your current company? So I think understanding your goals is probably the first thing. I think I see people they scratch their own itch. There's something frustrating in their life, and they're like, I wish there was a tool, I wish there was a way of overcoming this problem. So they've got problems in their own life, and then they realize they can build things. I have a friend who mobile app developer, and he's always just like working on some project, and I'm not giving anything much to away too much, but years and years ago he got a motorbike. It's like 10 or 15 years ago, and he wanted to park his motorbike, but there wasn't a good way to know where there were free parking spots. So he found a way he could find where there were free parking spots using some cameras, let's say, and then he'd just look up where he was going, he'd flit through, and then he said, there's free spaces there, I need to kind of go there. And he actually went then to the parking company and to try and sell his app, but they weren't interested. But he had a problem he needed to solve, and he couldn't find a way to solve it. So he just sort of built his own thing. And then he actually went out and sort of said, I wonder, could this be a business? And it wasn't, but you can kind of do things like that. I think it's important, if you want a business, to focus on things that people will pay you money for. I see a lot of people, they've got the idea is great and they're really excited and they go running around building things, but they haven't sort of thought, will actually someone pay me for this? Because you have a really, really good idea and people were like, I'd use that. It's like, what would you pay me? Isn't there a free version? I'd use the free version of that. It's like, well, that's okay. Maybe there isn't a free version. Maybe there is. But, if you want to turn it into a business, you're sort of thinking about, will actually people pay me for this? I know someone else who's kind of thinking, he just thinks, what are the problems of rich people and how can I solve them? Because they have money, they could pay me. And so he approaches his idea generation from that kind of point of view. So I think if you are going to jump into building something, you're going to, you're going to have to be really interested in it. If you think this is a great moneymaker, but I really hate the topic, it's probably not the recipe for success, right? If you guys are like, I really hate talking to people and doing podcasts, let's start a podcast. It's probably not, it's not going to, last. So I think, where can you bring in your interests as well? But, I think if you look around sort of daily life, you'll see opportunities. And then maybe it's been approached elsewhere. There's a lot of stuff I find that there's an app, there's a business, a service, but it's not in Japan. And so obviously some people want to bring things into Japan, but you might have the idea of building the homegrown version. It can be easy if you want to sell to Japanese corporates to be the Japanese version of some global or non-Japanese sort of originated type of software or service. Now, of course, the big player might come in and eat your market,
or buy you out.
But you may be the opposite. You may build the market. You may be do so well that no one's interested. And so I think we sort of see. Government had regulation. Look at what's the government promoting regulation? It's kind of changes to invoicing and things like that. And so you had a proliferation of B2B invoice processing, invoice management services. And so we've got lots of these different services now. And 10 years ago, these weren't there. It was fax me the invoice, email me the invoice. But now it's this goes in a system, and the homegrown solutions to that. There are also things around Japanese language. If you're looking at in the AI sort of space, obviously dealing with Japanese language is very different than perhaps dealing with English or similar languages in terms of LLMs or other things. Is there some Japan advantage or niche that you could kind of take advantage of, to build out some ideas as well?
Hey guys, did you know that we cut our interview into bite-sized chunks of content?
So if you want to go back to your favorite insights, please follow us on our social media at Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Passion Project JP.
So both of you are in the recruiting HR-ish space, recruiting space. What are some of the common problems or challenges that you guys have that is like, I wish there was like a solution for this, or like something that could do this for me? Is there anything like that stands out?
That's a really good question. I mean, so there's a lot of work going on at the moment into AI recruitment powered tools. So what are they looking to do? Instead of you have to read all these resumes and pick out the ones, it's going to read all the resumes for you and pick out the ones. And then it's like, well, okay, now I'm going to interview them, and now there's going to be a chat bot or some avatar's going to interview them. So there's a lot of money being spent into sort of automating the recruitment process. At the moment, I see AI tools taking up a lot of the perhaps blue collar recruitment, like warehouse workers and things like that. These were, perhaps I would say no skilled or low skilled. These are just different skilled than, say, a software engineer, where, a CTO may have very strong opinions about how software should be built and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's, instead of, recruiters manually doing phone screenings and stuff, it's automated tools and chatbots and, filling roles with perhaps less interaction at the start of the process, and perhaps more human interaction later in the process. But maybe I'm quite happy if I'm applying for a role that I can just do some conversation with a chatbot and I find out if I want to spend my time in that company or role. But and I think we're very early days. Yes, I'm not sure in recruitment. I kind of look at everything that comes along, try everything out. But my focus is still, I want to meet people face to face and understand what they really want, because that's really gives me the direction of where I should be helping a job hunter. What's your real motivation and what you're really looking at. And you probably do that in an email, but I think talking to people is the way to go for that at the moment. So I don't think recruitment automation may not do all the tasks. I may get replaced not by something that just does all the tasks I do better than I do them currently. It could just change hiring completely and, there. So, a car isn't a faster horse. It's just a totally different method of getting from A to B. So, it's not an incremental improvement on current existing processes. So we'll see. So there's nothing I sort of think, I go off and build this kind of thing or found a company doing this in recruitment, but there's a lot of it kind of going on. I don't know if there's a Japan angle there, perhaps, that would help people with like new grad recruitment that could be sort of very more Japan specific.
Well, me personally, I like reading CVs. So I feel like because I'm reading it in Japanese and I feel like it's a way for me to improve the language proficiency.
Okay.
So I don't mind reading.
So it's free
CVs.
training.
It's free training.
Actually, you're being paid.
So,
you're being paid to train.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a study. So for now, I don't really see any problems with reading CVs. But one thing that I hope would be better is I wish there would be like an automated system in which they can sort out the CVs for you. So for example, we are a group, right? So we have a lot of different businesses, different roles that we need to fill in. So if there's like a system, like a central system that can you just automate it, filling out the CVs for me, highlight all the main points, all the main details like emails, phone numbers, whatever, that would be really great. So when I look at that, maybe I would just need a dashboard or something, and I click a name and I have all the information there,
right.
all the positions there, and
it probably sounds like your company needs an applicant tracking system. So you may have sort of stuff for. Are you, without giving away the secrets of your company, do you have a kind of an IT system that's managing recruitment?
We do, but we use a lot of it.
Okay, have you got a bunch of different things?
Yes.
So sometimes it's just that the particular tool you have isn't the right tool for the job. And if you look at different providers, they will do different things differently. But I think what sort of people are thinking is with sort of recent AI is probably the matching process of better improving matching and reducing the resume reading and other things. I think what's really very important to think about, especially in recruitment, is what are the pain points for job hunters? It's their experience as a job hunter. So I apply to a lot of jobs and I don't get feedback. I don't get a reply, or I get an automated reply, or I fit the job. I apply to a job advert or job description and that looks like a great fit, and I don't get feedback, I don't get an interview. So from the user experience point of view, you think of it from the job hunter's point of view, there's a lot of mess in there. And to me, it's a lot of that's just kind of the volume now. It's just recruitment system so far, we're not set up just for the volume of, I could call everyone, for all the resumes I got in a week, I could just call everyone, but now it's just impossible because there's just so many. If I put an ad on, I put an ad on LinkedIn last month, and then LinkedIn throttled it and basically took it off without telling me. So if there's anyone from LinkedIn, I was a bit naughty, but I figured it out. But I had so many applications for the role in like 3 hours. that it basically was like, no, we
Oh,
because
it
it,
wiped it.
no, it didn't wipe
Oh,
anything.
okay.
No, it just stopped new. I was like, why am I not getting notifications of new applications? But
Right.
I had so many in a short space of time.
Yeah.
Well, LinkedIn doesn't make money from me putting up one free ad. I get one free ad with my paid plan. LinkedIn wants me to pay to post lots of ads, so they were like, we're gonna throttle this because you're getting far too much value for your monthly fee. And so, but again, it was so many. So what happens then is automated responses that are not giving any feedback. Like, thank you for your application. If it's a match, we'll contact you. Or the worst is obviously you just get nothing. You apply and then like nothing, and just like, did they even apply? So I think candidate or applicant job hunter experience. That there are lots of pain points around there, and then the company pain points are often like cost and finding the right people, especially for niche jobs. So I think for that's opportunities in a lot of their areas, but that's an area. This is an area that a lot of money is being spent currently because it's just like, well, I should just click apply and then get the job offer. Everything else in between is just, there's a tech solution for that. Or there could be, so let's go. So we'll see how well that goes. I mean, my background's IT, right? So new stuff comes out, I'm jumping in there and giving it a go, trying it out. There are things like one of my clients, I have access to their applicant tracking system. I was doing the screening of all the initial resumes, and it's like, a fantastic new AI feature will rank all of the applications. This is a common thing, you got 300, but put the top matches at the top, and we'll get the very poor matches, the low matched at the bottom. And so I thought, this is kind of cool. I'll just have a look at this, and it was rubbish. I found it was really interesting because like one thing, it was giving people points. It was like giving grade out of 100. It was 20 points for this. He had kind of looked at the job description and then figured out a weighting based on it. But one thing, like it was mixing up technical skills, like, tech people watching this will laugh, but Java and JavaScript, it was mixing up, which is an old kind of software joke about recruiters don't know the difference between Java and JavaScript. And very interestingly, we're in Japan, so we will advertise language levels, and we need business level English, and we didn't need Japanese. So it said, we require business level English. We don't require Japanese. So native speakers of English from like the US, you don't write native English speaker on your CV because you don't need to at home. But they were sending in their CV, and the system was going, well, no points for you because it doesn't say business level English on your resume. And so, it was like, okay, this is, good effort, but so it's like, ignore that, switch that off until that gets fixed. If it does, again, that 6 months later, that could all work perfectly, but I doubt it.
You mentioned that job descriptions,
yeah,
as a system, it's like, it's not the best.
Yes,
there's some like faults to it. Are there any alternatives to a job description system, and can that be something that is an opportunity to explore? Yeah,
well, if you treat it as marketing and advertising, then really you're looking at sort of like advertising. What's the purpose? A company puts out a job advert. They want suitably qualified people to apply, and so they can talk to them and then pick someone. So that's the purpose from the company's point of view. And putting out a big long list of very boring stuff, like, are the best people reading that? I don't read I don't go looking at recruiter job descriptions. It would just be bored to death. So the top performers that you're trying to reach, looking at those kind of things. Whereas if you have an advert that's not a job description, but it's more sort of focused like advertising a product, with your job being the product, and what's in it for, first of all, like, why should anyone read this job description? Like, what's in it for the person who's looking for a role? Or maybe they're not looking, but they're a bit curious and they've come along. Why should they read and click the apply button? So it's probably more of a shift of the communication to sort of an advertising type of advertising type of model, rather than job descriptions are fine to read through of a comprehensive view of all your role and responsibilities. But if you apply for a job doing what you currently do, you don't need a big long list of 30 bullet points that tell you all the stuff you already know you do. What you want to find out is like, why should I leave my current place and go to this one if I've got, or if I'm not working now, why, what's better for this company over this company, this role over this role. A lot of companies, it's very, it's very company, it's like it's all about the company. And then it's, we are this, we want this, you should know this, and here's a bunch of 30 things you're going to do that you already know. But it's, look, why do I want to work here is the question the job hunter's asking. So I think moving away from job descriptions to adverts that, are answering the kind of questions, why should I apply? I think from that you'll get better engagement, better response rates, and you'll get people who match better what you're looking for, rather than they just sort of click everything or get my AI to just apply to everything and see what happens.
Right.
Approach.
Super appreciate you taking the time to
Well, it's my pleasure. It's really good. It's
wisdom bomb.
Again, I really like what you're doing as well, and the kind of what you said, your kind of goal. I think, just people doing side projects and other things. There's a lot, obviously they're learning or we're learning doing these things, but also it's a great service to the community as well, and it helps to build communities and share information. When I started recruitment, like finding jobs in Japan, it was really, really difficult to get any kind of information. There's nothing online. I bought a book at a bookstore in London about kind of living and working in Japan. It had a section on job hunting, and it was, the main thing was like, there's lots of recruitment agencies. Don't put a suit in your suitcase because you're not allowed to job hunt on a tourist visa. And if they find a suit in your, then they're like, they may send you home because they're like, is this your interview suit? Are you job hunting?
Written down.
It was written in the book. Wow. It was written about. Now I think that's the rule is still there, but I don't know if immigration cares. Just say I like to dress up. I like looking good when I go out. But there was that sort of stuff. But now there's so much more information. We didn't even mention sort of the digital nomad visa that came out last year. Again, opening up for people. It's kind of short, 6 months. But it's kind of opening up Japan to a new host of people. So I think, keep doing, anyone who's watching, thinking of a project, give it a go. Don't be afraid of it not working out, because you'll learn something, and then maybe you realize it is great and you want to continue, or you go, I've done enough, and you go do something else. But I don't think you'll regret trying out and experimenting with different things and the skills you'll build up from it. So I think go for it, and best of luck. Keep doing it on your side too.
So that was part 1 of our interview with Paul. If you gain any insights, remember to comment down below. Next week, we'll be having a part 2 where he gives us a live coaching session for some tech CVs.
So if you don't want to miss that out, please don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.
Thank you so much, guys. See you next week.
Bye.